Hello lovelies, it's Victoria and welcome to my portion of the tea. Today I'm going to be reading from A Dream of Emerald Skies, and I am putting out the revised version of this lovely piece with, see the new cover? Later this summer in 2020. It was something I decided to go back and revise the cover and revise the inside. So I'm very excited to share with you today the first two chapters. Thus all the greenery and pretty things I have on today. I've also promised 2 new covers. So again, I am going through my whole catalog and I have been delighted to share some things with you all along the way of this revision process. So a lot of you like the anime version of Ikicho, and here is the new version of the cover. That hopefully will be coming out in the fall, along with the new cover for A Long Rain. Again, same photography, better font, and these were all designed by a good friend of mine, Michelle Bearhorse. Sorry. You can win a copy of A Long Rain. You will need to comment or share, and we'll look for it out on the Facebook page and wherever else we promote to be eligible. More times you share, etc., the more times you get entered, and then we will contact you. So make sure that you are able to get messages through especially Facebook, and we will contact you, and it will come from the SP Countess, that is me, to get your copy of A Dream of Emerald Skies. It is young adult. It does have a little bit of adult language, but not a whole lot. Again, it's meant for young adult audiences, which is generally 12 and older. So now, without any further ado, let us read from A Dream of Emerald Skies. And it was, of course, by me, Victoria L. Schultz. And there's all rights reserved, although there are references to actual historic events, places, and people. All of the characters, places, and dialogue in this book and its related stories are fictitious, and any resemblance to any person, living or dead or undead, is coincidental. So the dedication to A Dream of Emerald Skies is to my dreams from the land of Oz that slip from my subconscious during slumber and inspire me to create during the day until deep into the night when I return to defy gravity. So as you can already tell from the title and many things in this front portion of the book, that this is highly inspired by The Wizard of Oz and the musical Wicked. Prologue, The Dog Catcher, a city just a bit a ways from London. Come on now. Livy hit the accelerator on her steam-powered motorbike, and the machine's engine roared in response. She'd promised Mr. Stanley she wouldn't be late again, but the old bike was low in briquettes, and Livy didn't have time to stop for more. There was still so much she needed to learn if she wanted to become a proper apprentice, and if Livy could develop a desired set of skills, then she'd only be a year away from joining the academy to become a detective. Delays could be tragic, her mother had warned her. Livy emerged through an early morning fog and cluttered alleyways onto a wide cobblestone street. She gripped the handlebars as the bike fishtailed the turn. Sleepy pigeons shed panicked feathers, and crows squawked as Livy sped away with her copper-colored locks flying behind. She squinted through her goggles as the violet and orange hues of the sunrise temporarily blocked her vision. Morning and evening times were the occurrences that the sun was near its normal celestial color, for the aether was continually filled with the outpouring of green steam from the hundreds of factories of emerald skies. Livy was a mere block away from Stan's clock shop when the familiar wail of the dog catcher's siren pierced the quiet morning. She halted her bike and scanned the block for wayward creatures. Because any stray animal picked up by the dog catcher wouldn't be adopted, the poor beast would most certainly be sold for medicinal research or food scraps by unsavory persons like the catcher. Out of the corner of her eye, Livy spied a dirty pup trotting across the far side of the alley to her left. She punched the accelerator, tore down the street with a screech, and skidded to a stop right as the pitiful wagon of the animal control officer arrived. With a swift hop off her bike and a whisk of her gloved hand, she had the frightened pooch in her grasp. "Miss, I'll take that canine," the catcher seethed as he rolled off the wagon. He huffed while trudging towards her and tugged on his bracers that barely held in his filthy workman's shirt and ever-expanding potbelly. "No, you won't. He's mine." Livy dumped the forlorn hound into her basket that was attached to the front of her bike. Her nose wrinkled at the putrid smell of the dog catcher. His odor only made her more anxious to exit. "You can't possibly—" "What? Take a poor, hungry creature off the street?" Livy opened her coat to reveal the gun and holster on her thigh. "Do you dare threaten me, a deputy of the Queen?" the dog catcher hissed. With her heart pounding in her head, Livy threw a leg over her bike and hit the starter. She gave it a good rev, but the bike choked miserably. "Aha, you think you can just take off as you please. What, and spoil your commission? How much do you get for selling off these poor animals to slaughter?" Livy tried shaking the bike to no avail. The fuel meter was at 0. "Need a briquette, miss?" A paper boy skipped from the shadows, armed with bags filled with gazettes and sundries. "I sure do." Livy tossed the boy a crown piece from her coat pocket. The young entrepreneur ran full in front of the dog catcher and popped 2 charcoal bricks into Livy's gloved hands. Within seconds, she dropped the precious fuel into the tank, cranked the starter, and tore away from the wretched canine wrangler. "Ta-ta." "Well, I never. Not much of a lady, that one." The dog catcher dropped the last nub of his cigar into a filthy puddle where it died with a small hiss. "But you, young man, could be a gent like me someday. A fine catcher making plenty of good bills. What you say?" "You stink, you hairy old bastard." The boy disappeared before the catcher could reach for him. The dejected control agent snarled at his failed attempt for extra pay, mounted his beat-up wagon, and drove off into the morning mist. A few moments later. "For a young woman interested in keeping time, you certainly aren't well practiced," Mr. Stanley smiled as Livy slid in the shop. "I'm sorry, truly, but I couldn't help but stop for this one." A whine emitted from the crook of Livy's long leather coat. "Another one? Oh, Miss Livy, I appreciate your soft heart. But where will we put him? I can only take so many of them out to the farmlands." Mr. Stanley turned away from his workbench to face his young apprentice. "You can't continue to mess with the catcher either. I know he's a corrupt idiot, but you shouldn't keep making him angry. He might have pull with some higher rank, and that might interrupt your pursuit of becoming a detective." I know. Livy set the pup down and removed her coat to reveal a cotton brown jacket fastened with multiple straps and smart trousers underneath. The adopted creature immediately crossed the room to sit at the feet of the clockmaker. "Oh, look at you," Stan cooed, as he gently lifted the dog up to his lap. The tiny pooch's pink tongue darted out with doggy kisses to the kind clockmaker. "Oh, phew, he needs a bath. Take him out back, clean him up, you know the drill. But Miss Olivia, we have to get your mind set in the right place. You have a bright future, but you need to focus, understand?" "I do." Livy tugged at her gloves and ruefully stuck them in her coat pockets. "Why, it's so hard to move forward with my life. It's getting so hard to focus on anything," she thought. Stan noticed the look of discontent on Olivia's face. He didn't mean to be so hard on her. He was grateful to have the help. She'd come out of nowhere to assist him. She had just opened the door and walked in. The librarian said to expect someone, and Olivia was just the right person. She had grit, determination, and intelligence. It was hard not to call her by her nickname Livy, but Olivia was attractive too. Her pale skin and hourglass figure had been noticed by more than just a few gentlemen that had come into the shop to have their timepieces fixed. He worried that one of the customers might follow her home to the room she rented. Livy had never mentioned exactly where this flat of hers was. Stan hadn't felt proper in asking, but he already knew that there was something special about it. Secrets would soon be revealed, and Stan would patiently wait for the answers to come. "I'll take him." Livy gleefully gathered up the dog. Put him in a box in the kitchen. You know where I keep the extra bones, and yes, we can keep him, but then we need to get to work. Of course, Stan. Livy winked over her shoulder as she headed outside. Let's call you Skippy, she whispered to the pup. Later on, the oldest grandfather clock in the shop struck 5, and both of the shop's inhabitants set down their tools. Well done today, Olivia. I'm thinking that you're almost ready for the most challenging work, bigger clocks and more expensive pieces. It's only been a few months, but you're ready. Stan snapped an odd-scope contraption from his head. It allowed him to see the most minute intricacies of the tiniest timepieces. He pulled some coinage from his pocket. That'll mean more pay as well. As he put the money into Olivia's palm, he placed his hands so that they covered hers. Miss Olivia, I want you to be careful. Keep the gun loaded and the knife at your side. You know I don't pry about your home life, but I want you to be safe. I will, Mr. Stanley, I promise, Livy declared as she pulled away, slid on her jacket, and closed the door with a dull thud. Stan turned back to his bench and sighed. In his heart he knew there was so much more at stake. Livy drove off into the dusk, back to a rooming house that she didn't know that well, despite residing there for several months. The ride seemed to happen by instinct. She always parked her bike in the back underneath an old fire escape and near putrid rubbish piles. No one ever bothered it. Then again, it was basically a bucket of brass bolts that were just enough to get Livy where she needed to go. But once Livy stepped in the back door of the forlorn row house, she wasn't quite sure of where she'd end up. So that's the prologue to A Dream of Emerald Skies. We're going to read just a little bit more. So again, it's heavily inspired by my love for The Wizard of Oz, both of course, the old movie. For those of you who know me, I love weather, and the tornado scene never fails to amaze me in the beginning of that movie. And of course, I love the book. It's a Victorian classic, and there's a whole series of books that people forget about, but it is the first one that inspired me. And of course, as I'm scrolling through my laptop here to get to our next chapter, highly influenced by the musical Wicked, and I just love that show. Its positive message and how we deal with sisterhood and family and our dreams, where they take us. So the first chapter, after I have a sip of tea. I hope you all are enjoying the read so far. Get your tea out, get a sip. Hopefully you have some snacks handy. And off we go. Chapter 1, A Sort of Reality. New York. The next morning came as it always did, with a rush, as if Olivia had been falling and crash-landed in her bed somehow. She would catch her breath, let her eyes adjust to the darkness first, and only then reach for her nightstand light. Even if she'd overslept and sunlight was pouring into her bedroom, she still took her time awakening. Olivia developed this routine because for the last few months, every morning, she woke up in New York City. But at night, she would go to bed and somehow arrive in Emerald Skies as Livy. Olivia had no clue how this was happening. The dreams began a few months before, on a day she would never forget. New York, 3 months earlier. What do you think of this one, Olivia? Joni, the 40-something hipster owner of the Rehash Vintage Boutique, held up a newly acquired black and beige Victorian blouse. It had voluminous sleeves topped with extended tight cuffs and a high embroidered neckline. Oh, that's lovely, Olivia gasped. I thought you'd like it. Let's put it in a case. It's fragile, but still wearable. Joni passed the magnificent garment over to Olivia. Olivia yearned to buy the piece herself, but did her best to display it for sale. As she mounted the garment on a half mannequin, Olivia's mind wandered, as it had tended to do lately. She'd become detached from her friends and preferred reading a good tome instead of going out. Olivia was preoccupied with recent high school graduate life, preparing for college prep courses, working at Rehash, and saying goodbye to her adolescent years. Despite having her head in the clouds, Olivia retained intuitive skills. When she noticed things were amiss, she tended to absorb other people's feelings over her own, and that included her disjointed home life. Working in the vintage boutique was a pleasant distraction. It fed her love of history and gave her some spending money. Olivia was attempting to be independent, even though her well-to-do father could more than provide for her. A text startled her back into reality. Olivia set the mannequin in place with some select accessories and locked the case with a brisk click before checking her phone. "Let's see the eclipse, round trip to St. Louis." Olivia felt an oddly torn feeling rush over her after viewing the group text from Matt, Tina, and Shauna. Matt and Tina had been dating off and on through high school, and Shauna was preparing to come out to her parents while secretly dating a girl from another school. "How well do I still know everyone? We haven't exactly been out after our grad parties." She now questioned her friendships like everything else. "Olivia, if you're done, you can clock out for the day." Joni peered over her classic spectacles. "Looks like you might have plans." "Yeah, perhaps." Olivia feigned happiness, hiding her ambivalence in how to respond. An hour later, while having dinner with her mom, Olivia revealed the plan to witness a once-in-a-lifetime solar eclipse. "Olivia, your dad will cover your plane ticket. You and your friends could spend one last day together," Deb encouraged. "You won't get the full effect here. Work and daydreaming can wait." "Okay, I actually want to go. Mom, did you ever feel like you were growing apart from people?" Olivia stuttered. Olivia had no idea just how much her mother knew about estrangement. Deb chose her words carefully. "Yes, it happens. People change. Situations change. People move and get jobs, and it's precisely what's happening to you right now. Your friends are leaving for school. It's okay to feel out of sorts. It's time to start making your own way. You need to experiment and try different things. I'd rather see you find what you really want, babe. Just don't get stuck with your head in the clouds. Listen to your gut." "Thanks, Mom." Olivia bit a last piece of toast, grabbed her purse, and prepared to catch the bus. "Don't leave without a hug." Deb embraced her daughter. "Have an awesome day at work. We'll make those travel plans tonight." St. Louis, Missouri, a few weeks later. Olivia and her friends took a round-trip flight to the famed gateway to the West City. After meeting up at the airport, Matt and Tina paired up once they boarded. "Apparently they're back on," Olivia mused. There wasn't a lot of time for small talk with Shauna either, as she spent most of the time of the flight texting her new love. Olivia resigned herself to finding interesting shapes in the cloud formations outside her window. Why am I even here? The moment they landed, Matt took immediate control of their plans. Matt continued to lead the way to the arch grounds, barking out orders on where to sit so they could get an optimal viewing spot. While their friends blithely chatted away, a strange feeling danced around Olivia's insides, as if something big was going to happen. It was more than just the eclipse. The rising anxiety kept her from enjoying the pre-eclipse celebrations. She popped some gum to keep from biting her lip and faked a smile. By the time the event started, her jaw ached. As the moon overtook the sun, and the brilliance of the ring in the sky wowed the crowd below, waves of nausea rushed over Olivia. She was already warm, but now patches of sweat blotted her t-shirt. While the world around her was in shadow, Olivia clutched her purse and wondered if she could discreetly puke somewhere. "I came all this way. I need to see this." She forced herself to look while fighting the bile that rose in the back of her throat. People around her cheered while something inside Olivia changed. Even after the eclipse, she felt lightheaded. At first, Olivia just blew it off as sensitivity to the weather changes surrounding the event, or that she strained her neck while looking up. But when she and her friends boarded the plane back to New York that late afternoon, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was very wrong. Olivia skipped her dinner plans with her friends and took a cab straight back to her parents' home in Greenwich Village. They won't even know I'm missing. As Olivia unlocked the front door and turned the knob, her hand felt aflame, so much so that she shook it before completely going inside. Once she stepped into the foyer, the strained voices of her parents pounded in her head. "You lied, Tony. You said you weren't seeing anyone," her mom shouted. "Come on, Deb. And you said you weren't going to travel anymore. Now suddenly you want to go back to Kansas. What about your art career? How can you succeed in the Midwest of all places?" Her father hissed back. "You knew the separation was coming. Quit acting like the victim." "My father is sick," Deb pouted. And I can still ship things here to the gallery, but forget all that. You've been sleeping. Her mother paused as Olivia entered the kitchen and then grasped the wall in shock. Oh, Olivia, you weren't supposed to hear this. See what you did? Olivia spat at her father. Hey, babe, what's wrong? Her dad rushed over. I don't feel so good. Olivia slid to the floor. Get her some water, Deb barked at Tony, and then felt Olivia's forehead. She started to whisper, Olivia, honey, it's okay. No, Mom, it's not. What's happening? Though Olivia had known her parents' marriage wasn't perfect and suspected that they'd been having issues, she hadn't expected this. Oh, babe, take a deep breath and drink some water. Tony stooped over to help her drink. Olivia closed her eyes as the cool liquid seemed to dissipate her headache. Drink some more. I think you're dehydrated. You've been doing so much, getting ready for college, working at the boutique, and traveling today. Her mother handed an emptied glass back to her dad. More. Fill her up. Tony jumped up to prepare another glass. Liv, don't worry. Nothing's going to change for your schooling. You can split time between me and your moms. We're moving? Olivia blinked. Here, drink. Your mom picked a place in the Bronx that's close to the gallery. But, Dad, where are you going? Olivia whined. I'm moving into Manhattan. His voice was dead as dust. Upper East Side with that. Deb winced. My new girlfriend, Candace, Tony explained. We have a place with a great view. You'll love it. It's 2 blocks away from work, so no more crazy long commutes or subway rides. Tony attempted to smile, but Olivia couldn't believe he could be happy with someone else. Help her up to the table, Deb commanded. Are you hungry, honey? Maybe some soup. How was the eclipse? No, it was fun. I just think I want to go to bed. Despite feeling weak, Olivia trudged upstairs by herself. Once behind the bedroom door, she scooped up her elderly cat, Sparky, and spilled tears on the soft cotton sheets of her bed. Her parents finally stopped bickering and the house became silent. Olivia tossed and turned for a few hours before getting up to go to the bathroom. Sparky crawled to his bed, and with a sorrow-tinged purr, was soon fast asleep. Olivia hated what she saw in the bathroom mirror. Her eyes were bloodshot with dark circles beneath. Her normally vibrant red hair was dry and tangled. She looked pale and felt as sick as she had appeared. She had already been nervous about starting school, even for just a few classes. All of her friends were leaving New York, but did she care? She splashed her face with some cool water and tried to make sense of the last few weeks. She hoped she was making the right decisions. Am I right to stay behind in New York? What about my artistic prep courses? She didn't have the grades for an Ivy League school, but creativity and tinkering with things fed her soul. She loved books, especially mysteries. She secretly wanted to become a private investigator of some sort. Even her best friends were envious of her deduction skills, or at least they had been, which is why her parents' separation disturbed her so much. This summer she felt even more off-kilter, not quite as sharp as her usual self, but she had chalked it up to working the extra hours at the shop in order to save up for a scooter or bike, just so she wouldn't have to deal with the crowds on the bus or the subway. And Olivia didn't want to count on handouts from her parents anymore. Olivia staggered down to the kitchen to grab some Gatorade from the fridge and noticed her dad asleep on the couch. She couldn't even imagine seeing him with someone else, or a witty, talented mom without him. How did this happen? How did I not see it had gone this far? She stumbled back upstairs and finally crashed into bed. It was then that she had her first dream of emerald skies. At first, Olivia thought it was a simple imagination. She walked through the door of what seemed to be a house in Victorian England. When she stepped inside, a thick fog was clearing with the sunrise. As Olivia tugged on her worn trench coat, she spied a rickety bike along the house she'd vacated. A pair of brass goggles hung from the handlebars. Her heart leapt at the sight of something she'd always wanted. Soon she was speeding along the streets that reminded her of London. Her mother's family had British ancestry, and Olivia had visited there as a child. The homes flew by as she drove through an industrial city. The skies were a brilliant green with sweeping aqua-colored clouds and a lavender-tinged sun that rose in the east. The cool wind blew in her face and made her feel more alive than she had in months. People in historical garb entered the sidewalks and streets to start their days. Odd vehicles passed her and tremendous airships loomed overhead. Suddenly her bike sputtered and slowed until it stopped in front of a quaint clockmaker shop. Livy paused to enjoy the sudden freedom she had, but her curious nature caused her to dismount and go inside. As she turned the knob to go in, Livy awoke in her bed in New York. Wow, that was something else, she whispered as she tossed her covers aside. The sun had been up for a while, as it was much brighter than she was normally used to. Oh no, I'll be late for work. She jumped out of bed to reach for Sparky and noticed that he hadn't moved since the night before. Not so unusual. He was a 16-year-old cat. He slept most of the time. But as she touched his fur, her worst fears were realized. Sparky was cold and his heart had stopped. Oh no, Olivia shrieked and collapsed next to her deceased furry friend. Olivia, Deb knocked and then rushed in. Olivia, what's wrong? Sparky's dead, she sobbed. Oh, I am so sorry, Liv. Deb knelt down and embraced her only child. This has got to be the worst timing. I'm sorry, honey. Mom, I just can't take it right now. Olivia's head pounded again. I know. We'll make arrangements and take care of Sparky today, okay? Why don't you call into work? Yeah. Olivia hiccuped as she stroked Sparky's once tawny fur. Go ahead and sit with him a while. I'll bring up breakfast. You really need to eat something. Deb felt her forehead. Not warm, so no fever. You think you could take an egg, maybe yogurt? I'll try whatever. Olivia wearily reached for her phone and texted Joni at the boutique. When she finished, an odd flash of green seemed to pass her window. Olivia blinked in disbelief. Maybe it was an exotic bird that got loose. It was at that moment that the dream of the strange city came back to her. Oh, to have that feeling back, she mumbled aloud. The rest of the day was a blur. Her dad had left for work and wouldn't be coming back. Disappointment sickened her further. How could he go to live with this Candace, this new girlfriend? Maybe I don't care if I ever see him again. An hour later, Deb helped her wrap Sparky in a blanket, and they took him to the vet's office for a cremation. Olivia didn't speak the whole time. Instead, slow, anguished tears rolled down her cheeks. When they climbed back into the car, she felt the warmth of Deb's hand on her shoulder. Do you feel like checking out our new space? Yeah, Olivia was suddenly restless. Everything was changing so quickly. They arrived in a charming brownstone in the Bronx within the hour. I think you'll like it. It's got a lot of antiques and fixtures. I made a deal with a realtor that I could keep most of the furnishings. Mom, before we go in, are you okay? I will be, honey. Your dad and I, well, we haven't been getting along for a while now. Sadness crossed Deb's face. He got promoted. He's making more than either of us had imagined. I mean, we've never been really hurting for money. Your dad invested carefully, and then he started meeting different people, wealthy folk. I just never felt quite right around them. We grew apart, and your grandpa, he could sense I wasn't happy, even miles away in Kansas. He told me I could come back whenever I wanted. Grandpa's sick? Olivia worried aloud. Yeah, he's been a widower for so long, always taking care of things by himself, but he can't anymore. One of his neighbors is helping out, and your great-grandfather was the same way. Brought your grandfather over from England. Farming in the 1800s in America was a way to have something of your own. So he started the farm, and your granddad loved it. My mom died when I was only 10. She was so kind. Deb choked up. And we, you and I both, get that creative, inquisitive mind from her. Is that why you came to New York? Yes, I wanted adventure. I came for school and met your father. And you came along. Your grandpa was thrilled that the widower's curse was broken. Deb smiled. So now I think I'm ready to go back to Kansas, maybe in a year. But enough of this. Let's go in and make new memories. Olivia and Deb so liked the new house that they were completely moved within a couple weeks. And during that time, every night, whether in Greenwich or in the Bronx, Olivia had the dreams of going to the clockmaker's shop in Emerald Skies. So I hope you enjoyed the first couple chapters read of A Dream of Emerald Skies. The revised edition will be available on all digital formats, including Kobo, iBooks, Google Books, and of course Amazon. And the hard copies will be available on Amazon as well. Again, thank you for your patience. It's been a long time coming to get this out, and this has been a dream of mine to get this piece done. So I hope you enjoy it, and feel free to follow me on social media. All my links will be posted on my blog, which is mysteampunkproject.wordpress.com. As always, thank you for watching, and thank you for reading. Goodbye, lovelies. Take care now.